Hey folks, Final Fantasy XVI had a demo come out. It has a photo mode in it, and so I took a look, and I'm going to go over it. We're going to talk about first how to actually access the photo mode, then we're going to talk about what's actually included technically in the photo mode, what the camera is like, and then we're going to talk about stylistically how all that fits together and how you can take better photos in the game. Another thing is, there will be some spoilers for this, very light spoilers. I won't spoil the story. You know, there's not much to talk about. It's a 2-hour demo. So if you want to go into the demo spoiler free, I guess don't look up YouTube videos. First off, how do you access the photo mode? Photo mode is not actually available until the combat training section of the demo. So if you're wondering why you don't have photo mode yet, that might be why. The way to do it is just to pause, go to the attributes tab, which is up at the top of the screen, and then go to the bottom left, and it should show you how to access the photo mode. For me, that was the bar. I think the demo is only on PS5, so it's going to be like the touch bar that's on the PS5 controller. I don't know if it's coming out on other platforms or if that button is going to be different, but that's the location you can find the shortcut. Next, you can use the PS5 screenshot function at any time. So photo mode is not available till later, and it's also not available in cutscenes. So you're not going to be able to use that all of the time. You can, however, pause the game with the PS5 screenshot function and take a screenshot of just like the static screen. Obviously, you can't move the camera or use filters or anything, so it's not great, but that's really the only way to take photos during a cutscene. So what does the camera look like? Well, it's pretty minimal, but it is functional. The main thing that it has is the ability to hide the main character, rotate the camera, and adjust depth of field. It doesn't have any lighting, frames, filters, posings, or time of day options like you'd see on maybe a bigger photo mode, but that's not really the emphasis of this game, so it's not that big a deal. Really, to be fair, what matters most with pictures is their composition, and the rest is all just kind of extra. And since you can move the camera around and adjust depth of field, you can get most of the stuff you need. It would be nice to have more stuff, but it's not strictly necessary. The camera controls felt fine, and I never felt lost or confused while using it, so that was good too. I would qualify it as a functional but minimal photo mode. Item sparkle effects do show up in photos, and something that's going to come up more later when I talk about style is that the camera is very tightly bound to the character. So the tether for the camera to the main character is very close. So you're not going to be able to zoom out very far. You're not going to be able to like fly around the area and look for the right composition. You're really going to have to get your character right next to where you want to take the picture, which means you're probably going to be taking pictures of the character. So next up is style. What kind of style does this game lend itself to? I would say the encouraged style in this game is heavily influenced by 4 factors. First, the visuals look great. At least on my PS5, I think they look really good. They're filled with detail. There's lots of little nooks and crannies and crevices on every little thing everywhere. There's just so much detail on all of the characters. This is very pretty, but it can be hard to tell at a glance what the hell is going on when all of these characters kind of have similar color schemes and are kind of like overlaid on top of similar colored backgrounds. All of that detail can make it hard to like pick out one character from the background or anything like that. You can kind of see it in the first fight when you're first starting the game. There's 2, I guess they're called icons, that are fighting in a dark tunnel, and it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. You can get it with the help of the symbols, but you know, I found myself having a hard time tracking the characters on the screen, and that bleeds over into photo mode as well. It's going to be harder to get your characters to pop out when there's this much detail in a game, whereas if a game is relying on like bright colors, something like Hi-Fi Rush, it's going to be really easy to get your character to stand out. The second part that tends to influence the encouraged style is very, very similar, and that's the number of effects that are in this game. This game is very effects heavy, maybe one of the most effects heavy games out there. Just like every sword slash has tons of effects that just blow up your screen. And of course, like ultimates and things like that just have tons of fire particles and all this stuff going on. So when you combine that with the detail, It can look really cool, especially when it's in motion and you're fighting, but when you flatten that, it really can make it hard to tell what's going on in a photo. So we're going to have to be really careful when we're taking photos to make sure that our subjects stand out and our photos don't look like a really complicated mess. All of these effects and details can really make complicated photos that are hard for viewers to read or parse quickly at a glance, which is generally not something you want with your photography. The next thing, which I think is a bit more positive, is the lighting in this game is phenomenal. I actually think it's very nice. Every scene I played was lit with soft, diffuse light that gives a nice glow to everything. So if you're familiar with photography, you know how important it is for that sunrise, sunset type lighting if you're out in natural light. And in the demo, one level is literally called Sunrise Sunset. You can also see the lens flare coming off of bright lights, which is really cool. I really liked that. I think that's a nice touch. You can add some more style to it. But yeah, the lighting in general is something you're going to want to pay a lot of attention to, because I think it's going to help us solve a lot of the issues that come from having a very detailed effects heavy game. The last thing that really changes what types of shots are encouraged by the game is the camera tether, and the depth of field being the only option. So because the camera is very minimal and the camera is tied very closely to the character, you're probably mostly going to be taking pictures of the main character. You know, you're not going to be able to take your camera and fly to the other part of the map and take a picture of like an enemy from a weird angle while he's T-posing or whatever. Even in action shots though, it's pretty hard to zoom out enough to see everything you want when you're fighting a bigger boss. In this shot, I don't really like it, but you can see what I'm kind of trying to do by eliminating the extra effects that are going on in the scene, eliminating the extra characters standing around, and also getting my character and the enemy in the scene. And I'm having kind of a difficult time doing that just because the camera doesn't move far enough back. So I have to change the field of view to be much more zoomed out to make up for that. Okay, so now that we know about those 4 factors, the high level of detail, the high level of effects, the nice soft lighting, and the camera tether and limitations, we can kind of think through how we're going to approach taking photos going forward in the main game, or even just in the demo if you really want to spend more time with it. I'm planning to approach most of the photos I take in the full game with the goal of using the nice lighting to highlight my subject and trying to blend out or simplify the details in the background and the effects during combat. I think what this is going to involve is a lot of me like running in, smacking an enemy, or using a spell or something like that, pausing and checking the image for lighting, realizing that the lighting doesn't work. I found a lot of the times, like here, the lighting lit the backside of my character rather than the face. I found that actually to be pretty common. So even if you do get the hit and you get the effects and the lighting from the effects, sometimes that lighting isn't in the right position. So you're going to have to do some trial and error to get this right, I think. Luckily in the demo, the mobs of enemies I fought were all the same enemy, and there were a bunch of them, so there were always multiple opportunities to hit someone, stop, take a photo, realize it doesn't work, try again. Probably 3 or 4 tries per encounter is what I was seeing. You could probably get that higher if you were more invested in a particular shot, but it's good that you're fighting the same enemies all as a group because it gives you a couple attempts to try the shot with the good lighting. Another trick I found is that if your companions are in frame and you want to remove them, you can actually put your camera inside the character and the character will go invisible. This is a nice way you can get like a secondary character that maybe is a bit distracting to the image out of frame. I also think there's a lot of space to explore stylistically the use of effects. So like in this shot, there's like a blue slash going through the center of the screen. I think there's something cool I could do with this. I don't really love this shot. I don't think it's that great, but the idea of like bisecting the frame with one of the attack effects is kind of cool. I think there's definitely a lot of potential there. There's a lot of space to explore. Overall, I had a really good time with the photo mode. I'm a little worried that there isn't a ton of depth here with the photo mode due to the limitations with the camera and the camera tether, but I also can imagine that once things really get going late game and we get lots of different effects and icons become more prevalent, that there's going to be some more interesting stuff to play around with in the world, and maybe those limitations of the camera won't come in and won't be that big a deal because we'll have enough to work with all of the effects and new spells and things. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'm working on a couple other videos. The next ones probably will be Jedi Survivor. I've got most of that done, just working through finishing the game and getting through the last areas. I'd like to do Hi-Fi Rush and The Surge 2 as well. Both of those have photo mode, so those are on the short list. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.